Welcome back, everyone, to week number 3 of our Getting My Legacy Organized. Over the past 2 weeks, we've talked about organizing photos, videos, audio, and documents. Today, we're going to explore one of the most powerful aspects of preserving your legacy, creating stories. Stories are what gives life to the facts and figures of our family history. They're how we pass down the values, lessons, and experiences that make our families unique. Let's dive into how you can start crafting and sharing these stories. This week, we'll focus on something truly special, telling the stories behind our photos. Photos are powerful. They capture a moment, but it's the story behind the photo that gives it depth and meaning. Today, we're going to explore how to bring these stories to life and ensure they're passed down along with the photos themselves. Photos are more than just images. They're windows into the past. They allow us to see moments frozen in time, but without context, a photo can lose its impact over the years. Telling the story behind the photos adds depth, emotion, and significance. Think about a family photo of a holiday gathering. It might seem like a typical event, but the story of who was there, why it was special, and what was happening at the time can turn it into a cherished memory. An image with the story of that image can turn a simple photo into so much more. It also helps the younger generation connect to those images from the past. Even a simple image can have an extraordinary story. So in this case, this is a photograph that I have in my collection. And if I was just looking at my photos, I might not really give it much thought. I would just say, oh, that's my grandparents on the left and my great aunt and uncle on the right. But if you really start looking at the photo, you realize that there's more to this photo maybe than meets the eye. So let's give you some details about these people. Now, I don't know exactly the story behind the image, but here's some of the important facts. Mary on the left is my grandmother, and she's married to Frank, who's right beside her. Next to him is Veronica, and she's married to Gordon on the right-hand side. Mary is Gordon's sister, and Victoria is Frank's sister. So you have a brother and sister marrying a brother and sister. They homesteaded in the Neerlandia area, and both couples ultimately abandoned their homestead. Gordon and Ronnie had one daughter born in 1932, so she lived at the homestead, but it also is noteworthy that in December 1933, Veronica had twins, and both of the girls died in 1934. One in February and one in September. My grandparents, they are Frank and Mary on the left, as I said before, had 3 children when they moved to the homestead, and then one baby boy was born while they were on the homestead. Now, because I know that my mother was born in 1936, then I know, and she was born in Edmonton, I know that this photo was taken somewhere in between 1933 and 1936. At first glance, I might just see my grandparents and my great aunt and uncle. But what if I enhance this photo using AI tools such as ChatGPT, or you can use something like MyHeritage? With MyHeritage, you are given a limited number of free photos to upload and enhance, and after that, some features require subscription. Enhance photos, colorization of black and white photos, animated faces, and creating short stories narrated by the animator's portrait are all part of the things that you can do at MyHeritage. I've even done a deep story at MyHeritage, and I will put a link to that in the show notes. So before we get to the story, let's look at what the products can do and if that helps with the story. However, note that you cannot colorize the photos if you use a product such as VividPix, which only has enhancement. They do have an upgraded product called Memory Station, and you can actually add audio to your photos. With MyHeritage, on the left, you can see that they took most of the creases out, but you see so much more when you colorize the photo. Here you can see that Veronica seems to have mud stains on her dress. So perhaps she's just fallen and everyone is laughing and joking around when the picture was taken. When I was preparing for this presentation, I wondered who might have taken the photo. So this is going to make me go back and look at my photos. I know I have photos of that log cabin, and maybe I can, based on the clothing, I might be able to figure out whether those photos were taken at the same time. Now let's take that enhanced photo and ask a few questions to uncover the story. Who's in the photo? Well, that's Mary and Frank, Veronica or Ronnie, and Gordon. And what was happening at the time of the photo? Something funny must have been going on, that's for sure. Why was the photo taken? Was it a special occasion or was it a candid moment? Well, I'm thinking it was a candid moment. But for the most part, this is unknown, unless perhaps I dig further into my collection. But I do know it was taken around between 1933 and then 1936, because that's when my mother was born. I have the homestead document someplace, but I couldn't put my hands on it for this presentation. What was the mood or emotion during the moment the photo was captured? Well, everybody is laughing and smiling. Is there something unique about the location, the clothing, or the expressions that could help tell a deeper story? Well, the log cabin tells me that this was from the homestead that my grandparents had, and they also, Gordon and Veronica, or Ronnie, they had a homestead right close by. But if you think about it, about your own photos, then you've taken those photos, then you know what has happened before and after. An example might be for this photo is that despite the hardships of homesteading in 1933, the two couples still get together and have fun in their lives. So here's the techniques to share. Start with the photo itself. Begin your story by describing the photo, who's in it, where it was taken, and what visually is happening. Add context. Share any background information that gives the photo meaning. This can include family traditions, the significance of the event, or the relationship of the people in the photo. Focus on emotions. Highlight the emotions of the moment. Was it a joyful celebration, a bittersweet goodbye, or a spontaneous funny moment? And keep it concise. The story doesn't have to be long to be meaningful. Focus on the key details that bring the photo to life. So my photo story might be, this photo was taken at my grandparents' homestead sometime between 1933 and 1936. They are enjoying the day despite the hardships of working the homestead. Granddad Frank appears to have said something clever, and my grandmother Mary and Frank's sister Ronnie are enjoying the moment. Perhaps Frank was commenting on the dirt on his sister's dress. Gordon is likely finding it funny too, because he seems to have that little smirk on his face, but he's also trying to maintain his composure because he knows that someone is taking the photo. They didn't know that at the time, but their time and life at the homestead would be short. This story is okay, but what if I added AI? In this case, I used ChatGPT, which I have a paid version of. So it costs me $20 a month to use it, and I use it almost on a daily basis. So the first thing I did was I uploaded the photo and then fed the following prompt into the ChatGPT. And the prompt goes like this. You are an expert photo organizer and historian. Using this photo, can you enhance the image and tell the story behind the photo? These four people, left to right, are Mary Middlebrow, nee Beaton, Frank Middlebrow, Mary's husband, Veronica Beaton, nee Middlebrow, is Frank's sister, and Gordon Beaton, who is married to Veronica, is also Mary's brother. They lived on a homestead, southeast quarter, 2661-3, west of the 5th meridian near Nearlandia, Alberta in 1933. They worked on the homestead but later abandoned the land. Please write me a story about this photo. So here's what ChatGPT wrote, and it's a little bit wordy, but It was 1933, a time when Alberta's vast prairies near the small settlement of Neerlandia offered both promise and peril. In this photo, we see two couples bound not only by family ties, but by their shared determination to build a life from the soil of this untamed land. On the far left stood Mary Middlebrow, her arms linked with her tall, cheerful husband, Frank Middlebrow. The couple had settled here with dreams of farming prosperity, lured by the fertile land around Neerlandia. Like many of their neighbors, they had heard stories of success, but the reality of harsh winters, long hours, and unpredictable prairies tested even the most optimistic settler. Next to Frank, we see his sister, Veronica Beaton, standing close to her husband, Gordon Beaton, who was also Mary's brother. Their connection was undeniable, familial bonds made even stronger by their shared hardship on the homestead. Veronica's face, thoughtful and reserved, shows a woman accustomed to both the joys and sorrows of prairie life. Gordon, even ever the hard-working and serious man, has shouldered much of the responsibilities of farming the land. His face, like the others, bore the traces of wind and work, a testament to the relentless toil demanded by this lifestyle. Neerlandia, the nearest settlement, had been established as a farming community with a strong Dutch presence, but it also attracted other settlers like the Beatons and the Middlebrows seeking opportunity. The land in this area was challenging with unpredictable weather patterns and demanding labor. The couple has made their home in, and then it gives the land description, a stretch of prairie that offers both hope and heartache. The tight-knit community of Neerlandia provided support, but each family was ultimately at the mercy of the land. By 1933, the Beatons and the Middlebrows were facing the difficult reality that their homestead might not provide the future that they hoped for. The economic difficulties of the time, combined with the challenging conditions of farming in Alberta, forced many families to reconsider their future. Though they have poured their hearts into the land, the couple knew that it might be time to move on. Yet in that moment, captured in the fading light of a prairie day, these four individuals stood strong. Their faces, their clothing, and the worn hands rested at their side spoke of resilience, family, and the strength needed to face life's uncertainties. While they would eventually abandon their homestead near Neerlandia, the memory of their time there and the bond that held them together would endure for generations to come. So I know it's really wordy, but when you consider that this was written in a matter of just a few seconds, it's kind of amazing. If I chose to use this, I might not use it all, but I could copy and paste the pieces that I wanted and then work from that, that part of what I have. Let's see what Claude from Anthropic can do for the story. In this case, I use Claude and I don't have a subscription. I uploaded the photo and I fed the following prompt as information as prompt. And actually, I fed exactly the same prompt. I cut and pasted it. And as I mentioned, or if I didn't mention, I will be putting a graphic that shows you how to build your prompt. So I use the same prompt. First of all, Claude reminded me that it can't enhance photos, but then it still can use this photo to tell the story. So this is its story. On a warm summer day in 1933, the Middlebrows and the Beaton families gathered outside their homestead near Neerlandia, Alberta. The air was filled with the scent of prairie grass and the sound of distant cattle. Mary Middlebrow stood proudly next to her husband Frank, both of them weather-worn but smiling. Beside them were Veronica Beaton and her husband Gordon Beaton, completing their portrait of two intertwining families. These four had come to this remote corner of Alberta with dreams of carving out a life from the wilderness. Their homestead, located, and then it gives the land description, represented both their hopes and their daily struggles. Each day brought new challenges, breaking the tough prairie sod, battling unpredictable weather, and facing the isolation of your life. Mary and Frank Middlebrow had married young, drawn together by their shared vision of a prosperous farm on the Alberta prairies. Frank's sister Veronica had found love with Mary's brother Gordon, creating a tight-knit family unit that relied on each other through the tough times. Now, I found it interesting that it talked about Mary and Frank being married young, because I hadn't really told it that, but their photos, I'm not sure. So each of the stories is equally good, and there are other platforms such as Copilot and Perplexity, just to name a few. If you're going to use any one of these, you can use them as the basis of your story. It's great if you try them all out just to see what they each sound like, and look for ones that sound more like what you might write. Then it's easier to edit and add that starting point. Once you've written your story, the next step is sharing them. Sharing these stories with your family not only preserves the memories, but allows future generations to truly understand and connect with their heritage. Being creative can make it more likely that your family will cherish whatever you create even more. So you can create things like photo books, creating a family photo book with each image paired with a story. Services like Forever, Shutterfly, or Blurb allow you to design and print beautiful customized books that include both photos and text. So for instance, I can create a photo book of my history. I could use the usual information such as family trees and bios, but as I include photos, I can use the stories that I create using chat or writing them myself, and put them in the book so that the book is more than just names and dates. You can also create digital slideshows. So you can use tools like PowerPoint or Canva to create digital slideshow. Each photo is paired with a story. You can share these during family gatherings or post them online for everyone to view. And I use Canva quite a bit. I totally plan to purchase it, but for the most part right now, I can do a lot of things with the free version of Canva. Another thing you can do is social media or family websites, and that you can create a family Facebook group or a blog where you can regularly post a photo and its stories. This keeps family members engaged and ensures the stories stay accessible. And then finally, how about audio video recordings? For a more dynamic experience, consider recording yourself or other family members telling the stories behind the photos. This allows you to preserve both the stories and the voices of the storyteller. So here's an example of a couple pages out of a book that I created about my dad. I had asked him to record his stories that he used to tell us around the dinner table. So he created about 6 tapes, and then what I did was I included those QR codes that you see on this page, and those QR codes will directly link you to my father telling the story. And so from his story, I just got some different photographs. I got this photo from the internet of Palm Dairies, and then I use Artisan 6 so I can create a book from scratch, and I can add enhancements and little these little enhancements of milk bottles and that. And then on the right hand side you see that I got some information from Wikipedia about what it was like to live in the Depression in Canada. Storytelling is even more powerful when it's shared. It's a shared activity. Let's talk about how you can engage your family in telling stories about their favorite photos. You can ask for their favorite photos, encouraging family members to select their favorite family photo and write or share a story about them. This can be done through email, social media, or during a family gathering. Another thing you can do is create a storytelling circle. Plan a family get-together where each person brings a favorite photo and shares the photo behind it. This can be a fun and heartwarming way to connect with across generations. Even if your family is around the country, you can have a Zoom meeting and share. So you could do something like this during Christmas or Thanksgiving. Finally, collaborative storytelling projects. Consider starting a family blog or newsletter where different members contribute stories about photos on a regular basis. This allows everyone to have a role in preserving the family legacy. Before we wrap up, I'd love for you to choose one photo that's meaningful to you and that you have details about, and try writing the story. If you don't want to write it yourself, then you can give ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, or Perplexity a try and then tell me which one sounds more like your voice. AI doesn't have to be scary. It can be a helpful assistant that does some of the tedious work, and you can be the editor. Thank you for being part of today's session. Telling the stories behind our photos is a powerful way to preserve our family legacy. It adds context, emotions, and meaning to the moments captured in time. I encourage you to continue exploring the stories your photos hold and to share them with your family. Next week, we'll wrap up our series by discussing how to preserve and share everything we've worked on so far: photos, stories, videos, and documents. If you need any help with creating something with Forever, I'd be happy to help you. We can use Artisan 6 to create a book from scratch, or you can use the templates that they have at Forever. Templates are great because you can work on a project, and then even if you aren't finished the book, it constantly is being saved, and you can put it away until you have more time, and then you just bring it up in the projects tab. So thank you, and see you next week.